everyone, and welcome to today's webinar on Are You Congruent when public speaking? And of course, congruent means, are you aligned? Are you amplifying your message? And the reason is, if you're not congruent with the message you're trying to deliver, the chances are that people will reject your message. They won't fully believe you. They'll start to question what you're saying. So being aligned with our message, being congruent, being parallel with our message is really important. So that's what today's webinar is about. Peter Dew is my name. I'm a public speaking trainer and coach, and I love to help people find their voice so they can speak confidently, effectively, and make the impact with their audiences, with your communities, make the difference that you want to through your spoken word. Are you congruent when public speaking? This is an interesting picture. The gentleman is away from the lectern, which I really like. His eye contact is not at the crowd, and the crowd is not looking at him. So something else is happening. There's a screen there, but they're not looking up at the screen. So there must be another person off the side. So my summation is that he might be the MC or the chairperson, the chair of a meeting, introducing someone off to the side. Pure speculation. This is just a stock photo that I chose for this particular webinar. But there's some questions there around the congruence of that speaker with whatever they're saying. How to participate. Most people know how to participate. Ask questions, write any comments in, take notes. I do record this webinar. It'll be available later on should you have any need to go back to revisit some of the content if I move over something too fast. And think and apply to your own personal situation. I think the real learning and the shift occurs when you, as the listener, as the audience, say, aha, I could have done that differently in the past. Or my presentation I've got coming up next week, I'm going to include some of this and do it differently as a result of today's webinar. So think of your own circumstances and what you might do differently. Is your message consistent and congruent with your audience needs? And you need to stay on message. Really important to stay on message. So here's some strategies for staying on message and being congruent with what you're saying. So every story that you share, every metaphor, every case study, if you bring out some data, maybe you're speaking to accountants and engineers, needs to lead back to your core message, needs to amplify, needs to bring to the front, to the spotlight, to the forefront, what your core message is. I often see people share a story or a metaphor that takes us down a little bit of a rabbit hole and doesn't relate specifically to their core message. And you've seen those speakers. Oh, that reminds me of a time when, or when they ask for comments, and some people ask a comment off topic and they indulge that topic, and then someone else comes in and adds, and all of a sudden they're going off topic, sharing stories and diluting your ability to stay on core message, to be congruent with your core message. So ask yourself, as you're selecting your metaphors, as you're selecting your stories, do they amplify and reinforce what you're saying? One of the topics I speak on a lot is around fear of public speaking. And it's clear to me, after doing this for 15 years and 20, 30,000 people, that nerves anxiety, fear may never go away. It's a normal part of public speaking, and you bring those nerves along with you, that you bring that anxiety along with you, and you can still do a great job with your public speaking. I let people know, think of your nerves and your public speaking like the black swan that glides magnificently across the water, across the lake. It stretches its neck. It's really majestic, and it's just, and you see the wake in the background, and it's just beautiful. The black swans here in Perth are absolutely magnificent. Majestic, seems like they're moving across effortlessly. What's going on below the water? We know their legs are going 100 miles an hour. They're churning the water. They're kicking like that, but we don't see that. All we see is the majesty, the movement, the grace. So public speaking and nerves is a little bit like that. While you're presenting, sharing your content, sharing your message, you can have nerves, you can have anxiety inside you, your pulse rate can increase, you can be wearing a Fitbit, your palms can become sweaty, and you know you're anxious. But don't worry, the audience doesn't see it. They see the black swan gliding across as you share your messages. What story, what metaphor, what case study, what examples can you use that bring us to your core message, but are also aligned and also congruent? They don't need difficult interpretation. They can't be misinterpreted. They're clear, black and white, black swan, white swan, black and white, aligned with your core message. The next thing that's really important is your nonverbal communication congruent? And I often demonstrate this extreme example. So forgive me here. First example, I'm really pleased to be here. I love delivering webinars to my followers, my clients. I love adding value to what you say. And at 9 a.m. WA time, there's no place I'd rather be than providing a webinar or a workshop or some sort of seminar to a group of people that want to improve their public speaking skills. This is what I do. This is what I love. Second example, I'm really pleased to be here today. I love helping people. I love helping people with public speaking, and yeah, there's no place I'd rather be. Now, please forgive me for that second one. I would not lie to you. I do really want to be here. This is what I love to do. But does your nonverbal communication in any way dilute, detract from what you're trying to say? The other simple example I see people do when they present, and maybe that gentleman that we saw on the first photo. Thanks very much for inviting me today. I'm really pleased to be here, and you're going to have a great time. As I move away from my audience, I'm really pleased to be here. We're going to have a great time today, and I'm looking forward to sharing some of my tips, some of my energy, some of my passion with you around public speaking. Now, I'm not going to spend the whole time in your face. I'm going to move back to a more neutral, central position. But to say I'm excited, I'm really pleased to be here and move away from you is counterintuitive to what you're saying and gives the wrong message. When you walk into job interview, is your body language aligned with who you are? Because the interview panel are reading your nonverbal communication significantly. So having congruent nonverbal communication is really important. There's times when you need to be approachable. Does anyone have anything to add? I'd really value your opinion on this. And then there's times where we need to be more credible. We flatten the voice, we stop bobbing the head, palms go down, and we go into more credible. This is what I need everyone to do. Because if we don't do this, then we're going to really struggle in the future. This is what I need everyone to do, yeah? Because if we don't do this, we're really going to struggle in the future. The approachable head bobbing smile, palms up, hey, I'm really pleased to be here, doesn't work that well when you're trying to send a message. So is your nonverbal communication congruent with the message and the words that come out of your mouth? Is your body language congruent with what your message is? If not, if this is your message and this is your nonverbal communication, there's some sort of conflict, some sort of non-congruence. Unfortunately, the nonverbal communication overrides. And if you rock up to an interview, job interview, with self-doubt, with a little bit of fear, with a little bit of anxiety, and you let that shine through your body language, the interview panel will know that you're not that confident. So the next thing to be congruent is, do you walk the talk? So this is my message, but in my life and in the way I do things, in my value, are they aligned with my message? So walk the talk means that your values align with what you say, your actions align with what you say, and your behaviors align with what you say. And one of my core messages has always been that public speaking is a skill that anyone can learn, and what you've got to say matters. And fear is a normal part of public speaking. Then my own story as a person who stutters and hiding and having a fear of public speaking, but working through that to share my message, to help other people, that value, my lived experience, is aligned with what I'm asking you to do. Where you see some sort of conflict, and I've seen this happen, I've attended a time management and productivity workshop. How to manage time and how to be more productive. So think of SMART goals and think of, importance of time, starting on time, ending on time. And the presenter arrived 10 minutes late and apologized for the traffic that was really quite heavy. And then he fumbled around as he connected his laptop to the data projector, and we're underway 15 minutes late. Finished on time. Everything else ran smoothly. Quite a good workshop. And one could argue there are circumstances where an aeroplane will be delayed and you don't get to your conference, you don't get to your meeting on time. But be careful, because you're walking the talk. And if not, why would people trust you? The other one I see a lot of is financial planners. Financial planners will talk about never invest in a depreciating asset. So you buy property, you buy shares, you buy stocks, bonds, something that goes up. And it's okay to borrow money for something that goes up. You shouldn't borrow money for something that goes down. So cars and furniture and TVs, you should always pay cash for those. That's not financial advice. That's what financial advisors tell me. And then the financial advisor rocks up in a Mercedes Benz that he's loaned money to pay because he wants to look good and wants to look successful. And I suppose image is important, but if I was a financial planner, I would probably drive a modest car rather than a Mercedes Benz or a Porsche that just says, hey, I'm making a lot of money. I don't know. I'll leave that to you to think about that. What are you doing to walk the talk, to be congruent with your message in the way your values are espoused, in the way your actions take place, and the behavior? We had was it 5 or 6 ministers within WA Parliament that have all been revealed as having significant speeding fines in the last 12 months. 5 ministers of the Crown, ministers of Parliament in West Australia, have had multiple speeding fines, 2, 3 times, multi-novas. And yes, they've apologised in TV, but these are our leaders that are asking us to drive safe, not to speed, not to drive fatigue, not to drink and drive. And they themselves are flouting those very rules. Their credibility has suffered a little bit, in my view. Do what you say you are going to do. What I mean by this is, during a presentation, you will quite often say, look, let me provide you with this. If you'd like a copy of my PowerPoint slides, let me know. Or I've got a wonderful TED talk. I've got a wonderful resource I can share with you. Let me find out and get back to you. If you say you're going to do something, once again, to build congruence, make sure you follow up, make sure you follow through. I have been to seminars where people have promised us a link or some resources and they've never arrived. And then I've had to follow up. And then finally, maybe a week later, they've apologized and they've sent out the resource or the link to whatever they were referring to during their presentation. One of the ways to build congruence is to make sure you follow up and do what you said you were going to do. I attended a seminar last night and they played a little YouTube video link. It was on artificial intelligence, AI, and it was really quite interesting. And the video didn't play all that well. I was zooming in, so I was a hybrid meeting. And I said, oh, can I please have a copy of the link? It didn't play that well. And the chairperson said, yep, we'll send that to you tomorrow. So I'm trusting that will turn up in my inbox sometime today. I'm fairly confident it will, actually, because this person who runs this session is congruent, is aligned with his message, and has a record of doing what he says he will do. Your Q&A session, we've now finished. Are there any questions? Make sure your Q&A session is congruent, is aligned, reinforces your core message for that presentation. In other words, every answer kind of brings back and amplifies what you want people to walk away with. If the question is off topic, answer it, but then bring it back to the key message. You can use the "and" response to a question. If someone gives a comment, oh, what about this idea? What you're doing doesn't seem to make that sense. How about we try this? And we can always say, yes, that's an interesting idea. And if we do this way, what you get is 5% increased productivity, 2% decrease in costs. The "and" brings it back to your core message. The reverse of "and" is "but." Yeah, that's an interesting idea, but the other one is "however." That's an interesting concept you've just shared there, Peter. However, this is a much better way of doing it. The "but" and the "however" takes away from the person who's just put forward an idea or a comment. The "and" enables you to build them up, to acknowledge them, and then change direction to what you're talking about without saying, but my research shows that this is a better way. So even your Q&A, you need to be congruent with the message. Because if someone asks you a question that's a little bit off track and you don't answer it well, and the audience thinks, wow, that's a really valid point, that's a great suggestion, and Peter just didn't deal with it, accidentally, that question might put doubt or might dilute your core message. In fact, if it's a really good question, a good comment, and it's towards the end of your session, that might be fresh in everyone's mind. So as they're walking out of the seminar, the workshop, they remember that last comment that I didn't handle all that well. And finally, be true to yourself. So when you're speaking on a particular topic, or you've got a message, or you want people to change, make sure you're true to yourself. This is about being authentic. It's not about being perfect. It's about being genuine. And I love the quote from Oscar Wilde. He said, please just be yourself. Everyone else is taken. Just be yourself. Everyone else is taken. So don't fake your authenticity. Don't fake your answers. Don't fake your content. Be real. Rock up with your bald head, your big nose, your pimples, your warts, your imperfections, my stutter. It goes wherever I go. And just focus on the message as authentically and as genuinely as you can. Here's why congruence is really important. The congruence of our non-verbal, the congruence of our story, the congruence of our actions, the ability to be congruent with our Q&A session helps us be consistent. So all through a presentation, all through a workshop, all through a safe start meeting, all through a project update, consistency builds trust. Inconsistency builds distrust. Being congruent in all those aspects I've shared with you helps you to be consistent and to build trust. So in summary, is your message consistent and congruent with your audience needs? Is your non-verbal communication, your body language, congruent with what you're saying? Do you, through your actions, walk the talk, or are you the time management guru who arrives 5 minutes late? Follow through. Do what you said you were going to do. Bring your Q&A, especially those off track or those interesting comments, alternate views, welcome alternate views, but bring them all back to that consistent message. And be true to yourself. Be authentic. Next webinar, how to speak to large audiences. So I do a lot of workshops with 10, 15 people, and people often ask me, Peter, this is fine. I'm good at work. I can do a team meeting. I can contribute at a pre-start. I can do a lunch and learn. Excuse me. I now have to speak in a conference in front of 200 people. How do you speak to a large audience? So that is my next webinar coming up on the 20th of September. Contact information, you know how to reach me. So thanks for your participation. Thanks for listening. And for those of you who are going to review this on YouTube, this recording, please feel free to send me any questions. But let me ask you one thing. What are you going to do? What do you need to shift? What do you need to improve or start to include to make sure you're more congruent with your message? Consistency builds trust. Inconsistency leads to loss of trust. My name is Peter Dew, public speaking trainer and coach. Good luck with your public speaking journey.